Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph with Bean to Bar World. Welcome to another episode of Chocolate Travels. And I'm here with Sabina of Cacaúba. So, hello, Sabina. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
So, let's learn a little bit about how you started. So, did you grow up loving chocolate? And what sort of chocolate did you usually eat in Brazil growing up?
Well, yes, I did grow up loving chocolate, and I do remember having very bad chocolate at the time. I mean, I used to like it a lot, like the other kids, but
Mm.
if you try them nowadays, it's like you can barely call it chocolate. So, chocolate with a lot of industrialized fat to
Right.
make it impossible to melt in the heat, which
That's
makes
true.
sense in Brazil,
Mm.
especially in the 90s.
Right.
But yeah, so we used to have this little coins shaped chocolate
Mm.
and also shaped in umbrellas.
Okay.
And we also had these waffles covered in chocolate. So these
Mm.
were the chocolates that I used to have a lot.
Right.
And I only started having better quality chocolate, I think, in my teenagehood. And
Okay.
then, yeah, getting to know about what chocolate was like closer to 18, 20 years old. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
And you also have those Briguero, is it? The condensed milk chocolates?
Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
it's a sweet that we don't associate so much with chocolate because we put it in a dessert or a sweet
Ah,
area
okay,
of the
okay.
line. But it's made with condensed milk, butter, and chocolate,
Mm, mm.
usually. So
Very sweet.
yeah, and then it's covered with sprinkles. So it's
Right.
delicious. It's very sweet.
And what about cacao? When you were growing up where you live, did you encounter cacao? Did you ever eat the fruit of the cacao?
No, that's the thing. Brazil is a huge country, and for those who are familiar with the size of Europe, the entire Europe except Russia fits within Brazil. So,
Mm,
and also there's like a lot of it is tropical where the cacao plants grow, but the southern part is not tropical anymore, which is
mm,
where I grew up. So
mm.
I had not seen a cacao tree, I think,
Okay.
until I was like an adult.
Right,
And I had
right.
never had the fruit until recently, like
Mm.
5 years ago, maybe. So, yeah.
Amazing.
We did have access to cacao pulp juice.
Oh,
So
you
I had
did?
not
Okay.
seen the fruit and I had not eaten it like raw, but we had the pulps and you could order the juice.
Okay, okay. What about Cupuaçu? Was that something you had growing up as well?
Yes,
Mm.
we had access to the juice, but not the fruit.
Okay, okay. Do you like
Mhm.
Cupuaçu?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what sparked your interest in chocolate making, bean to bar chocolate making? How did you come across it and why did it really excite you?
Well, it's an interesting story, I think, because I have been a fan of chocolate for a long time, and I majored in forestry,
Mm,
but I was only schooled in the wood production area of forestry. I was not, we didn't have a lot of information about the fruits of the forest
mm,
and the industry associated, which means I ended up not knowing how to make chocolate, even though I was a forester in Brazil. Uh, but it so happens that I did go for a master in uh, 8 different countries. It was like a nomad master, and every place I
wow.
went, I tried different chocolate, and I started a blog writing about it. It was mostly for my own entertainment. Not a lot of
Mm,
people read about it, read what I wrote, but
mhm.
it. I started collecting chocolate in a way and developing
Which countries were you going to?
France, Finland, Sweden,
Okay.
Spain, Netherlands, and then Austria.
Mm,
Yeah, and then in Brazil again.
okay, okay. Very
So
nice.
yeah,
And so you
and
came across some, was it bean to bar brands you came across? People, actual chocolate makers?
Some of them, yes. Some of them were industrial. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them were industrial chocolate that was melted and prepared with other ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So part industrial, part handcrafted.
Mm.
And yes, and then I ended up working in the Amazon. And in the
Okay.
Amazon, I had a cacao tree in my backyard. And one day it had cacao pods, but I didn't know how to get from the cacao pods to the chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
So I harvested them and then I went on YouTube to try and learn about it.
Mm.
And I made this little fermenting box
Mm-hmm.
made of wood. And then I tried to ferment it at home. Then I sun dried it. And at some point, I realized that I would need a stone mill of some sort.
Mm.
And I didn't have access to it. But I was living close to Peru. And I remember that in Cusco, they have this cacao museum where they
Oh,
offer
okay.
workshops to learn to make chocolate. So I
Amazing.
got my beans and then I went to this museum to make the workshop and I took my own beans and I asked if I could make chocolate from them. And it was possible. I made my first chocolate from the tree to the bar, but it tasted awful.
I was gonna
Really.
ask, how did you ferment? Did you just get a wooden box and just put the seeds and the fruit in there and you just left it for a week?
Yeah, I tried observing the phases. Like I did observe that there were parts that you had to revolve it and parts that you didn't. And then the length. I tried to make a wood box that would be proportional to the big ones, but
Mm.
much later I found out that you need a certain volume to be able to create an environment where there's no oxygen, which is a part of the fermentation process. And if
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
have just a very, very small, like I had this amount of
Yeah.
cacao, uh, it
Not
just
gonna
doesn't
work.
work.
Yeah.
So
And
it was
so
a
the
phase.
beans that you brought to Peru, those were the ones you fermented that you tried?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
In the sense of like the flavor, it was a failure, but I was able to do all the steps, and
What
then
did it
that
taste
was
like?
magic.
Why was it bad? Was it too bitter or what was it?
Bitter without any form of flavor notes that you could look for, and
Mm,
yeah, it was just
mm.
not sophisticated at all. And
Okay,
then,
okay.
but it was
But you learned the process. You learned how to make
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So after I finished my work in the Amazon, I decided I wanted to work in the farms in Bahia, which is another area of Brazil, which
Mm-hmm.
has a tradition of growing cacao
Mm-hmm.
over 200 years. And I worked in the farms there. And there I learned how much of an art craft it is to ferment cacao beans. And I could
Mm-hmm.
make like participate in all the processes of the farm. So that's more precisely where I decided to become a
Okay.
chocolate maker.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's very exciting for people like you who live in cacao growing regions to have your hand in both the chocolate making and also the fermenting and the curing and the growing. That's very special, definitely. And it
It
gives you
is.
better appreciation, more control over everything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's still, we realize that it's an extremely complex uh, situation and production. We
Hmm.
have many unanswered questions still today, even in the chocolate producing but
Yeah.
that area, but also in the farms.
Yeah, definitely. There's no bean to bar making manual really out there. And also when it comes to fermenting, it's very specific to the cacao you have in your region. It's not the same everywhere. So it's a lot of people have to learn as they go. But sounds like you're very determined.
Yeah, I am. Yes,
Wonderful.
I work just with the bean to bar. Really, I just receive the bars from the farm here, and I work from this point onwards.
Hmm.
And that's where I try to answer a few questions. But with the producers, there's a whole other universe.
Your background was more in other aspects of forestry. And so why are you so passionate about making chocolate? What is so exciting about it for you?
Mm. Well, I think personally, I've been asking questions, and mostly, how can human beings have a positive existence in our planet?
Mm,
Big question in life, but this is. I try to observe that.
Hmm.
Because a lot of what we do is degrading, but some of what we do is beautiful. It creates life. And when I was in the south of Bahia and I saw these landscapes where you could see a forest, but it was producing cacao and the food, which is so delicious for us. I mean, like, so many people are just so happy when they put a piece of chocolate in their mouths. And at the same time, if you see this agroforestry farms and you see the organic farms where the rivers are clean and the workers have a good health and the children can play in the cacao plantations and there is like a huge diversity, you feel life. And then I understood that that was one of the answers of my questions. And if I can work with that, then it gives me like a lot of purpose in life.
Okay, wonderful. So now that you've been making chocolate for a little while, what do you enjoy the most about making chocolate, and what do you enjoy the least about making chocolate?
Uh-huh. Well, what I enjoy the least is easy to answer. I hate to clean the molds. If I could just do a magic. Actually, once I saw a machine in a chocolate making place in Belgium. They just put the molds in there, closed the machine,
Okay.
and they opened it, and it was clean and ready. But yeah, that's the one I
Fair
like
enough.
really. The one I like the most is actually two parts. The first is the roasting, because it's where the chocolate maker is bringing out the best of the cocoa beans that were selected, and it's a work thinking about those who are going to eat the chocolate and flavor it and then savor it, and then thinking about the work of the producer, like the farmers, what they did before and what they're leaving. So like you have a responsibility not to ruin good cacao beans.
I think that's an important point because you live there, you've visited the farmers, you have a closer connection, so it's the cacao is more precious for you. You're less likely to waste it, you feel connected to it, you want to take care of it. So that's a really nice point.
Yeah. And then the second part I like a lot is tempering. We still do
You
tempering
like
by,
tempering?
yeah, I do.
A lot of
We
people
do
hate
tempering.
tempering.
Yeah, well, I can imagine it is tiresome and very
Yeah.
demanding. But also, I like, I don't know, I find it the most magical part of chocolate making,
Yeah.
perhaps.
How do you temper? What
We do
methods?
by seedling with silk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Wonderful. What criteria do you use for selecting cacao and other ingredients? Um, so what do you look for when you're choosing cacao? And are there any ingredients you try to avoid adding to your chocolate?
Mm-hmm. So first off, our production is entirely organic. So we only use organic ingredients at the moment, and we've tried from the beginning to be like this. So the cacao beans have always been organic. This is the first criteria. It rules out a lot of suppliers.
Mm,
The second thing is obviously the quality, and also I think thirdly, because it's kind of like it's rather far away and we're not, I don't know, we're talking to the suppliers, to the producers by internet. It's important that they have a certain logistics to be able to send it to you. Imagine if you find a very, which has already happened, like very good cacao beans, which is organic, but the people are not able to supply with you for you or reach, I don't know,
right.
transportation facilities. So I think there's this. And the other things are well, mostly organic and good quality. It has to combine well. They're the main ideas.
Okay.
One issue that we had was with milk, because well, I am like very much in favor of dark milk chocolate,
Okay.
and I was able to make one which was like very good to my opinion, and to a lot of people it was like excellent. And then we were able to make it with organic powdered milk, like from cows, for a while, because there was one supplier in Brazil, but then they stopped making, and there's no other brand, no
Mm.
other supplier of organic milk that is powdered in Brazil.
Mm.
So I had to think what I was going to do because like a couple of times I tried to make batches with conventional milk, we call it non-organic,
Hmm.
but I just didn't feel like it, and it was not the production that I had envisioned, and then it wasn't the flavor that I wanted.
Mm.
So in the end, we decided to go with cashew nuts,
Oh, okay, okay.
and it changed a little bit, but
Hmm.
it is similar the recipe that we made because it adds the cream,
Hmm.
the creaminess without
Creaminess. Yep.
adding too much of the nutty flavor.
Hmm.
And then it's interesting because it also became vegan and it's
Right.
also inclusive because there's a lot of people who are lactose intolerant nowadays.
Hmm.
So it was a good choice for the moment. It's not as good as the milk one, but
No, but cashew is a really nice alternative. Like you said, the creaminess that it adds and that it's a delicate flavor. So you still taste the cacao very much. Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we make it 56%, so it really can't taste so much the cashew.
Mm.
On the other hand, we make a white one, and then the white one is it's very present in the cashew nuts because also a
Mm.
white chocolate is kind of a white canvas. So if you
Right.
add one ingredient which is more flavorful, then it's going to be that chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love white chocolate made with nuts instead of milk. It's got a really nice flavor because you can also reduce the sugar and add more nuts, so it's not as sweet sometimes, which is really, really
That's
good
true.
for a white chocolate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Do most Brazilians where you are locally, do they appreciate bean to bar chocolate? What do they think about the interesting flavors? The dark chocolate, which, I know Brazilians have a big sweet tooth, right? So it's not as sweet sometimes as what they expect. How do they receive it? Does everyone love it? Some
Well, I
people.
think Vinto Bar is largely unknown by people in Brazil. So me and other chocolate makers, we're constantly trying to advertise, talk about what it is. Something would say educate the public, but it's mostly just passing information. And also, we do tasting events where we can explain not only our work, but also showcase bean to bar
Mm,
chocolates from other parts of Brazil or other parts of the world.
mm,
And I'd say, but that is very niche, it's very small part of the population who knows about
right.
that.
Hmm.
And what I have observed, on the other hand, that has come like closer to what we produce is that a lot of people are looking for more healthy chocolate
Mm,
or chocolate without sugar.
mm.
So that has brought a lot of people closer to what we offer. And yeah,
Do
then
you,
later on, they will find out that actually it's a small production, that it's being to buy another innovation.
so do people where you are, because a lot of people, someone like me who lives in Canada, it's expected that people don't understand anything about cacao and chocolate production. But in Brazil, where people are a bit closer to this idea of bean to bar and they're aware that cacao grows in Brazil, are more people receptive? Are they more receptive to bean to bar in Brazil, or is it still a bit of a struggle to educate and convince people to
It
appreciate
is
it?
a struggle.
Yeah.
I'd say that people in the big cities, or at least most of the population, they will know about the value of Swiss chocolate and Belgian chocolate. These are the chocolates that are like highly
Mm,
valued in Brazil. And
mm,
now we have to make a work not only to advertise Brazilian chocolate as good. There are obviously terrible industrial brands, but there's like more than 200 handcrafted chocolate,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Made to bar chocolate. So not only do we have to talk about national production, but we also have to talk about made to bar production. So it's like
Right. Right. Do you
two jobs.
think because not only in Brazil, even in Asia, where there's very hot climates, they're used to chocolate, like you said, that have other fats in there to stabilize it so it doesn't melt. So do you think that's why Brazilians maybe are not as excited about when you say it's Brazilian made chocolate because they have that idea that it's sort of that waxy, cheaper chocolate?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. And
Mhm.
also, like I said, the bean to bar productions are small and very niche, so that you might find, for instance, here where I live, you will easily find bean to bar chocolate in health stores, or like a health store people where you can find like natural foods,
Mm,
and also organic stores. But you will not find it in a bakery. You will not find it
mm,
in a supermarket.
mhm, mhm.
So that's where most people will buy chocolate.
Okay. So we were talking about this a little bit. Most chocolate makers have to educate the public on chocolate, and you seem to do that through your social media. You have some videos on YouTube as well. What information do you find is most crucial when selling products or talking to customers? What sort of facts, information do you try and get to them right away?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important information that I focus on is fine cacao. The idea that there is
Mm,
cacao that is harvested, fermented, and dried, and the fermentation is an art in itself, trying to bring out flavors.
mm,
Whereas there is commodity cacao, which is just usually bad quality. So to begin with, like you already have these two, and then you have industrial scale versus handcrafted scale, and then there are some industrial scales which are pretty good because
mhm,
they select the suppliers,
mhm,
but a lot of times it's not the case.
mhm,
And then also we talk about ingredients, like what you can read on the package,
mhm,
and then sometimes you just read things that you don't know what they are or which are weird. I read ingredient list this like a couple of weeks ago for white chocolate that was like zero sugar, vegan white chocolate,
Okay.
and it started with rice flour.
Mm.
I was like, wow.
Interesting.
And it didn't taste like, I don't know, it tasted a bit like box.
Oh,
It
did it?
didn't have anything like an industrialized fat because it had cocoa butter, but it didn't
Ah,
have the taste, a
mm,
good taste. I don't know.
mm, mm. Interesting.
Yeah, and this is a good ingredient in rice flour, but they're like
Right. It
very
doesn't
bad.
quite work. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I think the nuts, obviously some people have allergies to nuts, so you can't, but using the nuts as a replacement ingredient are usually a really good choice for um healthier chocolate options. Yeah. Is small scale chocolate making an important skill to grow and share with others? Why? So you talked about in Brazil, many people are starting to make bean to bar chocolate. I'm assuming it's a lot of small scale operations. Do you think that this is important to continue, in the world, in Brazil, and why, if it is important?
Yeah, um, I think like if you're working with a fair supply chain and then you're working with fine cacao and you really want to feed the people with a healthy chocolate, it could be any scale.
Mm,
I have one brand particular in mind, which is Ama from Bahia, and they
mm,
make organic cacao. They have a huge factory. I've been there, but they have all these principles in their production. But at the same time, they produce tons of chocolate, and the chocolate is good. So it is
mm.
possible to
Right.
make good big scale bean to bar
Sorry,
chocolate.
which one is that? What's their name?
Ama, AMMA.
Ah, okay, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But on the other hand, the small scale, I think, is more able to grasp the differences and the particularities of every batch of cacao beans because
Right.
usually they're produced by small farmers, and every batch is different from the next. And even from neighboring farms, I buy cacao from neighboring farms, and they
Mm,
are different one from the other.
hmm
It could
hmm
be the land, but it could also be how old these cacao trees are or what they're planted with.
Mm,
And they could also be different in the fermentation process.
mm,
So,
mhm.
so in the end, you get different flavor profiles, and then your roasting will be different. You can do it in a small scale. I think you're able to get more.
You're
You
able
can
to showcase the differences more at a small scale, right?
exactly, yeah. Whereas in an industrial scale, you're just going to get a lot of cacao from different areas, and you're going to have to use the same protocol, probably the same roasting profile, and yeah,
Interesting.
it's
Good
different.
point.
But it's possible to do good thing.
It seems there are many bean to bar makers in Brazil these days. So why do you think it's becoming more popular in Brazil?
I think it's a combination of things. So first off would be that we have more access to machines. I've seen how bean to bar has been developing in the world, and especially how it became more common in the United States to have these small melangers and
Hmm.
small stone mills. And then they became more accessible. Also, people having more access to the internet, so that they can, and there's more information available, so you
Mm,
can learn how to do this. Uh, More online courses, or even yes, courses in school to learn how to make chocolate.
mm,
And there's also the fact of fashion, I think, because we've had like artisanal beer
mhm.
fashion, and then we had I think gourmet coffee. This is still ongoing, and yeah, and then the bean to bar chocolate is one of them.
Right, right. Did you
Mhm.
find it fairly easy to find the equipment that you needed to start making chocolate when you did?
It's expensive in Brazil, so quite a bit of them I had to bring from the United States, and then others were bought secondhand by other producers, which was very nice. We have a WhatsApp group
Mm.
for women who make chocolate in Brazil, and then we can sell equipment very
Oh,
easily
very
there.
nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So, so in that sense, I think it was possible. It wasn't so hard, but if you're going to work with a little bit differently, then it may get difficult. For example, last year I tried to work with Cupuaçu beans. So Cupuaçu is a cousin of cacao, but
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
beans are bigger and harder.
Hmm.
And then I tried to do the exact same protocol, like using the same machines, and I ended up breaking one of my machines, especially
Uh,
the cracking machine, because it
Even the cracking machine. Wow.
yeah,
Hmm.
because it's just too big and too hard.
Hmm.
And then I was
Interesting.
working with the producers in the Amazon who
Hmm.
sent me the beans, and also a university,
Mm.
like a possible recipe. And I was able to make a recipe, but which turned out really good. And then it
Yeah.
was a lot of I was happy with that. It's not so easy to make a Cupuaçu chocolate, actually.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, and then in the end I broke my machine, and then I started researching. I've been researching since then
Mm.
what machine would be more appropriate. And
Mm.
I think for processing tropical fruits and tropical nuts, except for the ones who are more commercialized, like the ones who are a bit more exotic, we don't have equipment for that. I've talked to
Mm.
other people who also process cupuaçu beans, and they'll be like, do it by hand. I'm like,
Mm.
how many hours of your life do you do?
That's amazing.
And yeah, I talked to
Interesting.
some other people, and they given me advice to look for some industries who make machines, but then that's for like medium scale or big scale
Right.
production.
Yeah.
And then some people lately have been talking about how China has more machines for like small scale
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
with fine ingredients, but like they're small machines and they're affordable. So I think
Mm.
maybe we don't have that in
Right.
Brazil, or it's not accessible to Brazilians yet.
But that's also what's great about having this growth of small scale chocolate makers in different countries is like you in Brazil, you have other types of the aroma around. You know, you could start experimenting in new ways that other people in other countries can't. So it's exciting to see what's going to happen in Brazil because, you know, with each country and everyone's unique perspectives and unique ingredients, you're going to come up with some pretty unique products in the future. So
Yeah, exactly.
exciting.
And also when it comes to machines, like perhaps in other countries they have different machines for processing other foods, and then they
Right.
will apply
Right. Yeah.
for the chocolate, which is a little bit what happened to the small melangers, if I'm not mistaken. They were used for making masala in India, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then they were
Spices.
like, okay, we can put cacao in here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It worked out well.
maybe with time we'll have more of that.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. I don't think I've ever tried Cupuaçu seed chocolate, so
Hmm.
I would like to one day.
Yeah, it's usually a 70% recipe, the one you're going to find easiest in Brazil. We
Mm,
call it pupulate, which is the
okay.
cupuaçu beginning, and latte from chocolate, chocolate.
Ah, okay, okay.
Pupu,
Very nice.
pupulate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But I've tried quite a few and I usually don't like it.
Mm,
But then I was able to make a recipe with milk, and then it was like a cappuccino in a bar.
mm. Oh,
It
nice.
had like caramel. It was very good. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I'm looking forward to finding a way to break the beans so I can continue producing that
Mm-hmm,
recipe.
mm-hmm.
It was a very nice experiment.
Yeah, because you don't want to break your melangers. It's going to cause a lot of headache
Yeah.
or your winnowing. Excellent. What is your current lineup of products of bars, and where do you sell them in Brazil?
Hmm. So I have them 80-gram bars like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 70%, and we have the 56% with the cashew nuts.
Mm,
We have 100% and the white chocolate with cashew nuts.
okay.
These are the four recipes I make usually.
Mm-hmm.
I also make them in 10-gram bonbons, so small.
Oh, okay.
But what sells the most, actually, surprisingly, is this one. It's a 500 grams bar of 100% cacao.
Really?
Yes, there
And
has been.
people, they use it
Mhm.
for eating or for baking with, or what do they use it for?
Actually, there has been an incredible growth of cacao ceremonies. I don't know if everyone
Ah,
agrees with
yes,
that,
yes.
but there is like a moment, a ritual where people will drink cacao or they will
Mm,
meditate, do yoga, dance,
mm-hmm.
play music, and just feel the vibe.
Mm,
But they make beverages with it,
right,
as I'm
right,
sure you
right.
know. And then besides that, there have been people who have had developed a diet every day to start their days
Mm,
drinking cacao, which is very interesting because it's very connected to how the Mayas and the Aztecs used to drink cacao. I
right.
mean,
Yeah,
chocolate.
it wasn't a sweet dessert. It was nourishment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they add spices, but not sugar. So
Mm,
you will feel it nourishing your body. It's very interesting.
yeah, yeah.
So I live in a place also where there's a lot of people looking for alternative therapies and connection to
Mm,
nature. So, and then healthy foods as well. So I have been selling like more than half of what I produce is 100% cacao,
wow,
which is
that's
not what I
amazing.
set out to do, but
Yeah,
it's great because I'm here for the cacao to be celebrated. So
exactly, exactly. No, that's really nice too because it's good that people are starting to appreciate chocolate as a food, not an indulgent, not just a dessert. You know, it actually does have valuable nutritional properties, and if consumed properly, it's very nourishing for you, you know? So it's nice to know that people are doing that, especially in the drink form, especially in hot places like Brazil, you know, where you have to worry about tempering and bloom and all that sort of stuff. To have it as a drink is much more efficient, I think. You know, it works much better.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. And then without the sugar, you only get the benefits, really. It's
right.
really good food.
Yeah, very nice. Excellent. And did you want to share, do you have any goals, any dreams for the future? What would you like to do with your passion in chocolate?
Hmm. Um, so I still want to remain in a small scale business,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I see Well, to be honest, I'm not really a chocolate maker, creative artist. I've set out to make chocolate, good quality chocolate. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the main ideas here at Cacaúba is to be a company that is uh, like, let's say, good for the planet in a short sentence.
Okay.
So it is, has a fair trade in with the ingredients, and it's
Mm.
organic, and it's zero waste is also one of our policies. So we don't work with plastic, and we try to minimize the waste that we produce
Mm-hmm.
in all the processes. And well, think about the new economies and the circular economies and being inclusive and everything. So um, I think I have more goals about the company. I would like it to reach a place where I say, okay, it has succeeded. It's a model. It's possible in the
Mm-hmm.
capitalistic world
Mm.
to have a company which is good, and then have it turn the wheel.
Mm.
Be actually financially sustainable, not only environmentally or and socially sustainable. So
Right.
that is
Right.
one of my goals. I think we're on a very good way there. We've been four years on
Mm-hmm.
this path, and I think we're not too far from getting there. And yeah, I think
Wonderful.
this is my dream. And then I
Excellent.
have to be able to do that with the pregnancy right now and the
Yeah.
baby. But I think
You,
it's actually it could be contributing. Could
yeah.
be a reason more to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah. Wonderful. And your child will have is already being nourished by the good cacao
Yeah.
that you make. That's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. So you want to create a company that, is not just about making chocolate and making a profit, but it's well balanced with a lot of your values, something that's sustainable long term, to create something like that you could be proud of is definitely an achievement. So I wish you
Yeah.
well with that.
Thank you. Which is not to diminish anybody's mission, I love people who are like crazy about developing new recipes and make these
Of
beautiful
course. Yeah.
bonbons that they put in the stores. I think everything is valid.
Yeah.
This is my personal choice.
Yeah. You have to do what motivates you. That's what's motivating you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sabina. It was really nice to meet you. And
Thank you, Joseph. It was a very nice chat, and I'm happy that people are watching and getting educated and getting information about beans to bar
I
chocolate.
hope so.
It's
Yeah.
really
I
good
hope,
work.
thank you. And I hope more people in Brazil start making chocolate. I think there's a lot of room for chocolate making in Brazil.
There
And
is.
let me know what happens with the Cupuaçu seed. I want to know if it works out.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best. Take care.
You too.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Download the free Bean to Bar app to connect with incredible chocolate makers from around the world. Also, be sure to visit beantobarworld.com, your portal for all things fine chocolate, virtual tastings, free learning resources, research, and much more. Subscribe to the newsletter to stay in touch and donate to the free app and free resources here. Contact me for any chocolate related questions you may have.